G'day, g'day, g'day. This is Charlie, and I'm coming to you today with your daily dose of business tech inspiration. Topic number 235. We're going to be talking about website hosting, shared versus dedicated. But before we get into what that jargon means and all that terminology, let's just have a quick chat about what website hosting actually is so that it makes a bit of sense. I often see questions in forums and people come to me and say, I don't understand why do I need a website host? What do I need hosting? What does it do? Hosting is the physical device or the physical place on the internet that stores all of the files needed to display your website when someone comes to visit. So when you go to askcharlyleetham.com, you are actually going to a web host or a server, web server, where all the physical files reside, and it runs processes and programs that make sure all those files are displayed the way they need to. But you need to have a physical place for those files to reside. So if I was to bring that back to an analogy you may understand, and I'm not great with analogies sometimes, so I'm going to try. Your computer that's sitting here in front of you, the thing that I'm recording this on, my computer is a shared computer. It runs multiple functions. I do spreadsheeting, I do document editing, I do internet browsing, I do video streaming because I sit and watch videos, I watch YouTube, I watch Netflix, I watch Amazon Prime. Uh, I browse the internet. I think I might have just said that. I play games on it. So all the resources on this computer are shared amongst all of those functions. Now, sometimes I can do multiple functions together, and each function takes a little bit of the resources and takes them away. Sometimes I can only do one or two things because there's not enough resource to share amongst all of the things I want to do. So you've got a finite number of resources. When I'm talking about resources, I'm talking about the memory, the RAM the computer has, the disk space the computer has, the amount of processing power it has. They're the three things that you can sort of consider when you're looking at a computer. So that's a shared computer. Now, let's say I get to a point where I'm doing my own video rendering, and I know my light levels are really changing. I can see that on the video. I am sorry. Let's say I get to a point where I want to render, I want to create my own videos, I want to produce my own videos, and I run a program like Adobe Premiere to do all my video production. And I end up saying, well, my computer I can't produce videos and work on other things at the same time because the production of the videos is taking too many resources off of taking too much processing power and too much memory off of my computer. So I go out and I buy myself a second computer that sits over there in the corner, and when I want to produce videos, I do it on that one. It does the production while I come and work over here on and share the resources of this computer with the other functions. That becomes a dedicated computer, a dedicated server. This is a shared server. Okay, so there's the analogy that I wanted to give you, is that your server is the device where everything is stored and it runs and it does all that technical magical stuff that makes things happen. And a shared server is one that you use. It takes the resources that's available to it and shares it amongst a lot of functions. And a dedicated server is one where you generally have one function that runs on it. That's in a office environment. That's in a workplace environment. I'm going to switch it up a little bit now, and we're going to talk about hosting and website hosting. So website hosting is where you store all the files needed to make your website display when someone comes to visit your domain name. It's the physical place on the internet where your files exist, where your files are stored. Uh, Generally, it is a piece of tin. Call it a piece of tin. It's a computer that sits in someone else's data center and is managed and looked after by them to deliver all of that so that you can store all that. It's accessible by the internet. They do all the things associated with making that run. A shared hosting is shared amongst multiple customers. Now, those multiple customers are multiple businesses, people, and they will have websites that are shared on it. So a shared host will serve multiple websites from the one server, and it will generally be from multiple different customers. And the reason they do that is it keeps your costs down. You can take a piece of hardware and you can say, this piece of hardware cost me $1,000. I can have 100 customers on it. That's $10 a client. Like, that cost me $10 a customer to serve to be able to provide this piece of this service to them. It's a service once it gets to us. Sorry, I'm stuttering because I'm trying to get the words right. Shared hosting has a place, but sorry, what it does is that then it shares all the resources of that piece of that computer, amongst all of the users of the computer, all of the websites that it's serving. Shared hosting might sound like it's a bit nasty. It's actually really cost effective, and it's one of the most common forms of website hosting you will find when you start going out and looking for website hosting. It's cost effective. It's actually really ideal for a small business that is just starting up or just wants a brochureware site. There's a couple of pages that they want to display. They don't want to do anything fancy. They don't want to host a lot of videos on it. They don't want to do streaming. They don't want to have a membership site. They don't want to have a forum. All they want is 4 or 5 pages that says, this is who we are, get in touch. Shared hosting is generally okay for businesses like that. It's very, 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 it can be very, very cost effective. Dedicated hosting, if I flip it all around, is like our video production server that I explained before. That is a server that is dedicated to your business's use. You can generally host more than one website on it for your business. You will typically only host one website because you've got one business site. I do have a couple of businesses that we've got a couple of different sites running. One is their website, then they've wanted to have a private user community. So we've created their private user community in the back of it. Maybe they've got a second startup that they want to run, so we've put a second website on it for them. So you can run multiple websites on a dedicated server, but that dedicated server is dedicated for your use, and the resources of that server are for your use only. Now, when we're talking about resources and website hosting, we're talking about the amount of disk space you can get, the amount of storage space you can get, file storage, the amount of memory, RAM, that you can allocate to your websites and your business's use, and the processing power that's associated with it. So they're generally the 3 things that we consider when we're looking at dedicated hosting. Network comes into it. And network is the physical connectivity, how it gets from that server out to the internet and the internet into that server. But it's less of consideration than the actual piece of tin that we're talking about. So shared hosting is resources are shared amongst multiple clients. It's cost effective and it's generally ideal for a startup and a small business. Dedicated hosting is exclusive to your business's usage. You can, and within reason, you can use it however you want. There are performance differences in both. I'm going to Yeah, there are performance differences in both. Dedicated hosting generally is faster and it's more reliable, mostly because it's only being used for your business, so there's nothing else affecting it. Shared hosting can experience slower speeds during peak traffic times because you've got multiple. It's like a water hose. It's like a highway that's coming down into a two lane road. 4 lanes down into 2 lanes, or a big water pipe into a smaller water pipe. You've got a lot of people trying to get onto the server at any one particular time. The server's only got a certain amount of resources, and that's got to be shared amongst everyone. So shared web servers, if you want high performance, you would not necessarily want a shared web server. You can go and look at it. Security considerations is the other thing that you need to consider when you're looking at shared versus dedicated. We can generally give you higher security levels on a dedicated server than we can with a shared web server. Gonna actually perhaps reword that slightly. These are my talking notes, and I know when I looked at these talking notes and created them, I'm like, yeah, it's a good point. I need to make it. But the other point I do need to make is I'm noticing that on a lot of shared servers now, hosting providers are really locking the security down. And when you go, I need access to this, nope, we can't do that. We can't do that. It's a security risk. And yeah, it is. It's just frustrating because it's a function that you actually need to have to make something work, and you're reducing my access to it. So the only option you have then is to go to a dedicated server because you can tweak your security. I think that's a better way of saying is that you've got more flexibility with your security settings on a dedicated server because it's only you are trying to protect. You're not trying to put in place a policy to protect a wide variety of users and people. So security considerations are a major one. Scalability is the next thing you should consider when you're looking between shared and dedicated hosting. Shared serving servers are rarely scalable. Generally, your step is you go to a shared server and then you go to a dedicated server. Sometimes you can go from a smaller version of a shared server to a bigger version, or sorry, a smaller plan on a shared server to a bigger plan. Those bigger plans will generally only give you more bandwidth and disk space. It doesn't give you more resources in terms of processing power or memory that you can use. So I'm just going to flip back up into performance as well because one of the considerations in performance is that with a shared web server, you will be told how much memory they will allocate to your site. And I build a lot of WordPress websites for people. And when I go and I say, look, there's not enough physical RAM or there's not enough memory being allocated to run this server, can I have more? The answer is no. Nope, we're not going to give you any more. And it's like, but you've given us such a tiny amount of RAM to work with. Well, that's just the way it is. And you look at the price you're paying, you're like, wow, that's special. So scalability and performance, they all come in hand to hand. So you might be able to go from a smaller package on a shared server to a bigger package, but you're not going to get any more processing power and you're not going to get any more RAM. So at that point, you do need to move yourselves to a dedicated hosting service or hosting plan. And that will actually give you a lot more ability to tweak settings and do things around it. Now, if we talk about cost comparison, most people will tell you that dedicated hosting is a lot more expensive than shared hosting. It's much more budget, like shared hosting is much more budget friendly. I'm actually going to just give myself a little bit of a shout out here. I run a hosting service. I provide hosting services to clients. And one of the things I've done is I've got an introductory level of dedicated virtual private server, which is your resources. It's your server. You do what you want with it. Well, within reason. Again, legalities and all of that. And it's only a small step up from the shared plan. And the reason I did it is because most clients need to step to that, but they don't want to have the big expenses of a larger plan and can get away with that smaller plan. And so, yes, shared hosting is often more budget friendly, uh, and dedicated hosting is sometimes more expensive, but the performance and security and customization trade-offs are well worth it. The only other thing that hasn't been mentioned so far that I will mention is that with dedicated hosting, you will normally have the additional cost of management on it. So you'll need to pay someone to manage the server for you. And that's where a lot of your costing comes in, is that your hosting providers will say you've gone to a dedicated server, we'll manage that for you, but there's a cost to do it, and you're paying that cost in. I'm going to say you need to ask a lot of questions around that point because I went to a provider who said they offered managed services, and I ended up managing the servers myself, knowing more about my server than they did. I had to learn a heap of stuff, which is why I ended up starting my own hosting service, because I got really annoyed with, I'm paying you all of this money to do this job for me, and I'm ending up doing it my job. Why would I have a dog and bark myself? Was one of my thoughts. So you do need to do a little bit of research around what companies you're going with, how they're perceived in the market, what they offer in terms of what they offer for the money they're charging you, and whether that ends up being value for money, or whether it's just one of those things that you look at and you go, "Ah, it's not worth it." If you want to know more about hosting, please send me a DM, leave some comments below. I will answer what questions I can. As I said, I gave myself a shout out just now. I do run a hosting service. I host a number of clients. Most of my clients are actually on dedicated VPSs, so dedicated hosting for themselves, that I manage for them. If you are running WordPress websites on those servers, we also do all of your WordPress and plugin updates as well, because they're a big security. It's all the security concerns, and we want to try and take all of that hassle out of it for you. Not many providers do what I do. Some do. Some just say to you, well, you didn't update your plugins, it's all your fault that it's failed. And then you come to someone like me who will go and advocate for you with the hosting company to get a better answer out of it, because it's often not the case. Anyway, I don't want to sort of, yeah. There's a whole heap of things around hosting. Hosting isn't just hosting, and not all providers are created equal. Do your homework, but do your homework, do your research, ask a lot of questions. Be careful who you are getting advice from as well. Make sure that the people who are advising you are knowledgeable in the market, and not just someone who has, well, I had this experience, so this is what I found. Make sure you find someone who's knowledgeable to give you that advice. And hopefully, understanding the difference between shared hosting and dedicated hosting helps you make thoughtful and informed decisions. As always, guys, please leave comments if I've said anything that you disagree with. If you've got questions, you can leave comments. You can send me DMs. Come across and join me on my locals community, askcharlyleetham.locals.com. You can join the conversation there. If you can, please leave reviews wherever you are listening to or watching this. It does help. If you can leave a review, please leave a review. And please remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell so that you get that ping when I put out the next piece of content. My content goes out at 8 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time every day of the week. Yep, 7 days a week you will get your daily dose of business tech inspiration. Tomorrow we are actually going to talk about domain names and how to choose one and things to consider. I'll see you all tomorrow, guys. Bye.